Hello everyone, Zelrant here, and today for Etheria Restart, which is just over a day away from releasing, I thought we'd talk about rerolling. This is going to be my part 1 of my rerolling guide, as my part 2 is actually going to showcase actually doing the reroll on launch. I do plan to start streaming as soon as the servers go live. I'll actually start streaming a little bit earlier than that. And then after I get the rerolling process done on the launch, then I will make a video that will be a part 2 that kind of showcases everything. I did try it out on beta, but I fully expected there to be some slight differences on launch, which there are a couple. And that's why I wanted to make my actual true how to reroll video on the actual launch. And so I expect to be able to have that out within a couple hours after the servers go live. And then I will actually put a link to that video in the description. So after this one, you can go to that video if you want to watch the actual process, like where all the polls, where you can accumulate all the polls, and then the whole process of actually re-rolling your account. But for now, on part 1, we're just going to go through the whole process, and Prudwin has actually everything here kind of broken down. There's a couple things that I think are missing, and there's a couple things I kind of disagree with them on. And we'll kind of go over that as we go through it, but I think they're kind of a good guide, and I'll have a link to this in the description as well if you want to read through this when it comes to rerolling. So the first thing they mentioned, is rerolling worth it? And in my opinion, it is absolutely 100% worth it to reroll. Even if you go the non-extreme route of, I just want to try and get one specific character, I think it's worth it because to me, it won't take that much time if you go that route. So absolutely it's worth it there. The only people that it probably won't be worth it, and we don't have a confirmation on this yet, I have not seen a confirmation on this yet, is that for those who have the rebate from spending money in the beta, I do not believe you're going to be able to reroll and then link your rebate account to the rerolled account to both take advantage of rerolling as well as getting the spending rebate. I could be very wrong on that, though. I have not seen a confirmation on it, but that's what most people are saying, is that when you start the game, if you want to get your rebate, you use the account you used in the beta, and you just have to go with it. There is no re-rolling. But we'll kind of have to see on launch. I will correct that in my part 2 if you actually can do that. So we have that, and there are limitations to this. One of the limitations is there's no guest accounts. So you're not going to be able to just keep recycling a guest account until you're happy with what you get, and then link your main email to it. That's part of the reason why I don't believe you're going to be able to take advantage of the rebate. But you are able to do salted emails, and to me, salted, some people don't like it, but I think they're very good. They're pretty convenient because the nice thing about salted emails is you can have it forward. All the emails are going to go to your main email. The only thing is you're going to have to put a plus number after it as you re-roll, and you'll have to kind of keep that noted down if you ever need to use that for logging in. But basically what salting means is you take your email, so you just say, like they show here, abc@gmail.com. So say your email is abc@gmail.com, and for the first one, you just use your normal email. And if you get lucky, well, there you go, you're good to go. But if you're not, and you need to reroll, then you just go abc+1@gmail.com. And what'll happen is it'll send the confirmation to your main email. Because the +1, it's still going to forward to your main email. And then you just go from there. And if you don't get lucky, when you re-roll again, it's now +2. And you just keep adding numbers. As long as it's plus a number, it's going to forward to your main email. And then whenever you're happy and done, you're like, this is the account I want to use. That's your email for it. You'll still get all the emails to your main email. It's just, if you're going to log in through the email method where you type it out, you have to remember the plus and numbers. You cannot use your main email. You have to use the plus and numbers. But one thing you can do, and this is how I'll do it, is you can link your Gmail to it. So you can bind your Gmail, and then you just log in through Gmail already being logged in versus having to type it out. Now, even though you'll be able to do that, make sure to note down the normal email just in case you ever need it in the future. That's the big negative, is you have to remember the number after it. And if you play a lot of gacha games, you may have a lot that have multiple of this, so it might get a little bit harder. You'll want to have a way to track it. But that's all it is for that salt method. Or you can go the crazy route that Vulcan does, which I think he has just a giant list of a bunch of emails he's created, and you just cycle through all of these emails that you've created. I think that's crazy. I prefer the salted personally. But if you want to go that route, hopefully you already have the emails made. because that'll add to the time it takes to reroll if you're constantly having to make new emails. One of the big negatives, this is a huge negative, and this is actually what's going to reduce how long you may be willing to reroll or how much luck you may want to try and reroll to get. And that is that you can't use emulators. So if you watched me when I rerolled on Girls Frontline 2, I was doing 4 at one time, and eventually I got to 8, where I was playing 8 copies of Girls Frontline 2 at the same time, because with like BlueStacks and LD Player, it has the ability to mimic input on all of the emulators. So you could play 8 of them at the same time, and you could do all of your polls and rerolls all at the same time. And so that made it where you're getting 8 times the odds, because you're doing it 8 times. So you could push for some really crazy luck. Well, you're not going to be able to do that in this, as currently they are blocked. We'll need to confirm that on launch. But they're currently blocked, so you're not going to be able to do that. If they're not, that'll be really, really good, because then I'm just going to multi-box it, and I'll be able to push for even better luck. But at this point, we cannot do that. So you have to do 1 at a time, which means you're not going to be able to push for as much luck as you really want. So that's kind of a limitation there. But regardless of that, it's still going to be worth it, and I'll show you why here in a second. So the reroll process is fairly simple. 50 to 20 minutes to do it. I would add a little bit for the beginning. Like, as you're learning it, it's going to take a little bit longer. Just kind of estimate like 30 minutes. But eventually you'll kind of get the muscle memory of where all the chests are located, the exact moves you're going to want to use on the characters when fighting the bosses and enemies to kill them as quickly as possible, because you're going to have to do a little bit of manual in there, which it kind of mentions here. You're going to want to use Gray's S2 first, kind of get the buffs up to do more damage, and then push through all the enemies. And then after that, you'll be forced to do a poll for your free Leon SSR. There's no RNG with this. It's always going to be her. You have to just push through it, do it as quickly as you can. Then you just finish the story through chapter 1 and unlock the mail feature. Once you unlock the mail feature, you're done with like the actual gameplay. Then it comes to gathering all of your polls that you can get through all the different areas, which they do have a list of them down here in Predwin, which we'll go over here in a second. And I will be this is what my part 2 is going to showcase, is how to get all your polls, because that's where you really want to get the muscle memory down to move around and get all your polls as quickly as you can, because that's where it can get time consuming if you're not really quick at it, because it can add time. It might not feel like it's taking much long, but it can add up if you're really slow at it. But once you get all your polls together, then you just do your polls. You're happy with what you have, good, you're done. If you're not, you re-roll, and then you just rinse and repeat until you're happy with what you have. So the big thing here is you'll get to a point. Oh, I forgot this part. You will be forced to do a 10 poll when you unlock the mail feature, and get showcased the actual banner. The big thing with this 10 poll is it is an actual true 10 poll. There's no like, it's not a gimmick one where they're going to guarantee a purple, but you're guaranteed not to get an SSR. It's a true 10 poll. You have that 1% chance to get an SSR for each individual poll on that 10 poll. So, and it counts towards your soft pity. So that's counted into the number of polls you get overall. And that is what we have down here. So we do have one code that is coming out with it. This is the big negative going into launch currently, is in the beta, we had 3 codes that gave 10 polls each. Currently, we only have 1 code going into launch that gives a 10 poll, which reduces how many polls we have on the launch by 20 polls. So we had 85 in the beta, so now we're going to have 65. And that's including the first free one for Leon. So I truly actually say it's 64, because hers doesn't count. Since you get an SSR, it doesn't count towards your self-pity. I mean, you could say it does, but then it resets it because you got an SSR. So you truly have 64 polls going into this. And where you get all of them is, you have that 1 poll. You have the forced 10 poll, which is completely free at the beginning. Then you have the 1 that you get from the code. Then you have 3 from chests, which I will show where they're at once I make my video after launch. You have the tickets from pre-registration, so this is going to be the mail stuff. You have 1 from a new aid kit in the shop, 10 from your crystal supply ones. So some of the stuff's in the shops. Then if you go to the achievements, you should get 4 from achievements. You'll get a 5 poll from the check-in event. You'll be able to get 5 from the summon shop redemptions there. And then You'll get 1 from killing that one boss, and then you'll have 620 gems. This could fluctuate. The launch could have some slight differences. Just know there could be some slight differences. I think you're going to get more on average from events than less. But 620 gems here, so that's 6 pulls, which brings you to 65 pulls on the permanent RGB banner. And this is where Pridewind kind of gets into what banners to pull on here. Now, I agree with what they say here, but they give you all the different choices. The first choice they do mention is pulling on Freya's banner. And your goal, if you're going to go that direction, is you want to get her in a single 10 pull. But to me, it's absolutely not worth it. One, it's going to still take a while to get. It's going to take a while to pull off getting her in a single 10 pull. It's, on average, at a 1% rate, it should take 10 rerolls to get a single copy of her on that. Not 10, sorry. It's, yeah. No, it's 1%. Yeah, so 10% chance. So, on average, it'll take 10 runs to get her. The better option, and the one that I'd pretty much advise everyone to do, is rerolling on the permanent banner. One of the biggest things that it is really good with that is, 1, it has every single character in it. And 2, it has a soft pity of 50, and we have 64 pulls. So you're very, very likely to get an SSR unit every single reroll, because the soft pity ramps up as you get as you go past the 50. And if it's any other gacha, I have not heavily tested this, but I have seen some of the other content creators, Vulcan actually being one of them, that did a lot of them testing in the beta, and it really does feel like you're going to get a pull every reroll. It's because of that soft pity. It's going to be like most other games where you're almost never going to hit the hard pity. The hard pity is like very unlikely to be hit because of how quickly soft pity ramps up. So that's the one really nice thing. You're pretty much always guaranteed to get a unit. And I'll kind of explain it on my part 2 as well after I've done some of my own rerolls on the launch. I can kind of give the math of how things have worked out on like my first 10 pulls or 10 rerolls. So you reroll on that, and here's where it's kind of the deciding factor. They mention some of the other stuff you can do mixed in with there. Like you can technically with your crystals pull on Messiah's banner, but you're only gonna get like 2 pulls on it, and you can technically get like 5-ish pulls. I don't know if they say it here. Oh, you can get 4 pulls on Messiah, and then I believe you can get 5 pulls on what it shows right here, the extra infinity, or basically the LD banner. The problem with going that direction is if you're pulling on these banners, you're reducing the amount of overall pulls that you're going to do on the permanent banner, which means you're going to not go as deep into soft pity if you go that far, which means you actually reduce your overall odds of getting a unit overall. And I think your odds are actually better of getting an LD unit by just going all the way to soft pity on this versus putting him into this other banner. I have not run the math on that, but it seems very likely being able to take advantage of a deep soft pity is way better than having basically no soft pity because you're pulling on these other banners with a little bit of your currency. So you have that. And so my advice, and it kind of gives if you want to look at this, I'll have a link to it in the description. Kind of has some of your targets you have. You might want to go for. You have Lily, Heinrich, Mio as your LD units, they say. And then RGB options, Tiamat, Zadia, Rosa, Ramoka. One thing is, if you're going to reroll, to me, absolutely must be a light dark unit. There's no reason to... Now, this is me personally, but to me, since the light dark units have a 3 times cost compared to the RGB options when it comes to the limited banner. Like if you want to pull over Freya, it's going to cost 100 crystals. If you're going to pull over Messiah on his banner, it's going to cost 300. So any future LD units, which I'm kind of expecting they'll actually have banners for like Lily, Heinrich, and Mio in the future, is kind of like a rerun limited banner. And in those cases, it's going to cost 300 crystals to pull over them. While it's only going to cost 100 if they like do a rerun for any of the other options. And they have a 0.75% chance of dropping versus 0.25 on these. So the whole point of rerolling is to give yourself good luck. And one of the biggest things that's going to take luck in this game is getting the LD units on the permanent banner. And so my goals overall, and I would say pretty much any of them. So while Lily is my main target, like if I get a Lily, that's my main target. But if I get like some insane luck where I get, say, like a Doki Doki and then 2 RGB units, I mean, that's better than just getting a Lily by herself. But at least I want at least 1 LD unit for my rerolls, just for the simple fact they're going to be much rarer and harder to get. But ultimately, it's your decision on that. Just pick a character you want to target, and yeah, you can go with it. Now, there's a lot more RGB units too, so your odds of getting the specific one you want to are a little bit lower than actually the LD units on that aspect. The only thing that reduces the LD units is the simple fact that it's 0.25 versus 0.75. And then they mentioned Marvel as kind of a target. He's one that I would really like to get in my SRs as I'm pulling. To me, he's not necessary. I'm not too worried about any specific units, at least at this point. For other people, that might be a little bit different. It depends on the direction you want to go with the game. If you're thinking long-term or short-term in terms of your goals. Now, one thing I wanted to look at that they don't showcase here is the true odds when it comes to rerolling, because that's going to kind of give you an idea of how long it's going to take to get what you want. Now, it's not an absolute, it's an average. So, on the bell curve, you could be stupidly unlucky and go to the 0.01% chance of you just never get them in 1,000 rerolls, which means you're wasting your time rerolling. Or you could be at the tippity top of the good luck and you get it within 5 pulls. So I'm only going to be looking at this just kind of give you an idea. And so I have 84 in here, but let's go to 60. So if you have, I like this Gacha calculator here because it can do the math on it. Now this doesn't take into consideration soft pity. So just note that the odds on here are not true. But it's nice to kind of get an idea anyway. So with 64 pulls at a 1% chance, you have a 52% chance of getting nothing. And so, like I said, that's with no soft pity. Your odds are probably really high, actually, because of the soft pity of getting at least 1. But if you didn't have that, 52% chance. You have a 33% chance, or 34 basically, to get 1. You have a 10.81 to get 2. And then to get 3, a 2.26. So then you kind of want to look at the math on it and kind of think of how long you're willing to spend. If you only want to spend a couple hours rerolling, which I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people, I think going for the one main person you want is the way to go. Because if you add these together, because you can add the 2 and the 3 to this. The 2% takes that to 35. And then that takes it to 45. You can say, on average, every other reroll, you're going to get a unit. And then every 4, or basically 8, because you have to take every other times the 4, 0.25% chance. So every 8, on average, you should get an LD unit. So every 8 rerolls, you'll get an LD unit. And if you do the math on that one, if it takes you 15 minutes to do it, and you do 8, it's going to take you 2 hours to get 1 LD unit on your rerolls. It's not going to be a specific one. There's 6 of them. So, I think it's 6. So there's 6 of them. So you can't target a specific one in that way. But you can say on average, every 2 hours, you'll get an LD unit. And then if you actually have a specific one you want, like I do, Lily, you take that 6 times 2. It's going to take you on average 12 hours to get that specific unit you want rerolling. And then if you're crazy, you want to go that specific unit and actually take into consideration trying to get an extra unit alongside them at a 10% odds, that just reduces the odds even more. And now you're probably looking at like 100. And at 15 minutes, you're looking like you're going into multiple days. And so that's kind of just giving you an idea of the odds here. To me, for a majority of people, you just want to target 1 unit. Get that 1 unit and try and target early if you can. And so my approach, what it's going to be, is I'm going to reroll until I get and they want to get say when I get my first light dark unit, because I'm absolutely going to reroll until at least I get 1 light dark unit. I want a light dark unit on my reroll as soon as I get one. I don't care which one it is, even if it's whatever the worst one I think is, which I can't remember her name here. Where is she? Yeah, okay, here. Sonya, the Withered Shadow. Even if I get her, what I'm going to do as I'm rerolling is I'm going to note down the email or the salted email for it. So say it's abc@gmail plus 15 is the email that I had an LD unit drop, and it's the only thing that dropped. I'm going to write that one down to note, hey, this is what I got on this reroll. But I'm going to continue rerolling from there. And then maybe I get one that has Doki Doki. And then maybe I get one that has no LD units, but I get 4 RGB units. So maybe I get a Tiamat and a Rosa. Like I get 4 RGB units and no light dark. So maybe I get one of those. And I'm just going to keep noting them down. And there'll be like a point of no return, as I'm going to call it, where, hey, I'm running out of time until the reset. And that's where I'm going to have to look through all these rerolls I've done and which one's the best of all the group and just go with it and take that one and play. Because one of my target is to not miss the first day's reset. So I want to be able to get all my stamina used, push as far as I can, which you can get to, I think, about level 17 on the first day. Make sure I do all the dailies and get all the daily event stuff done. So there'll be a point of no return. And I think that's my general advice for most people if you want to do a lot of rerolling, is do not let it go past the reset, because then you're going to actually fall way behind everybody else. If you're rerolling, you're going to fall behind in general anyway, but that one's going to put you way behind. It's going to put you a whole day versus what I would consider maybe a couple hours, because you're going to have wasted stamina that you've lost by rerolling over and over. But that's the only thing you really lose in terms of falling behind, versus if you reroll into a second day, now you're behind a whole day's worth of a reset. So all the event stuff. So my goal is to do that. And so my hope is that I can pull off a Lily alongside anybody else, pretty much anybody else. So getting 2 units within my reroll and then being happy with it. And then from there, we'll get another free SSR from one of the events. I can't remember the event, but you're going to get a free SSR after 2 weeks from the event. That'll give me another SSR unit. We have the selector, the beginner selector, where you can select one. I'll get one from there. And then I'm pulling absolutely for Freya, so I'll have Freya. And so I'll be set with an alright account. But after that point, I am just hoarding my pulls, because as we get future light dark units, they're going to be super expensive to pull on. So unlike what you're seeing on many other content creators state, I will not be pulling any more on the permanent banner after this reroll. That's why I really want to try and get like a Lily specifically, because the only way I'm getting her after rerolling, if going that direction, is if she gets her own limited banner, because I don't want to waste pulls. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's just, well, I wouldn't say quick, but that's just my kind of part 1 to this. I will put a link into the description to my second video when I get it out on launch on the actual process of going through the reroll in-game. I don't expect that video to be that long. I'm just going to showcase where like the chests are as you're doing the story, but I'm not going to showcase the actual full 15 minutes. I'll just showcase where the chests are, all the places you can get these other pulls, and then the actual creating of the account and rerolling. So that'll be a pretty short video, but I can't make it yet because the game hasn't launched. But for now, that's pretty much it. And if you like my content, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.